And we are recording on Tuesday, February 13th, 2024 at 12:17 p.m. Eastern Time with Miss Mel K. And because I am horrible about it, and so I've only had sponsors for like a month, I literally have a sticky note on my computer that says like ad reads, like stop being a dumbass. So, My Pillow, which is the blanket I have on me right now, My Pillow, link in the description. Promo code TPC for I think free shipping. Fox and Sons Coffee, link in the description. It's coffee. Promo code Tommy. And then Wellness Company, you guys know what that is. Promo code Tommy. Prismatic Energy, go to the link in the description. Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food, go to the link in the description. All of it's 10% off for free shipping. Some combination of the two with Tommy, and I'm trying to remember to do that because for 4 years I've been angry and pissed off at myself that I haven't gotten sponsors, and now I'm starting to get them, and I'm getting emails
Cool.
like you forgot to plug that. I'm like, oh shit. But yeah, it's like we were talking about kind of a blessing of getting kicked off. Like I realized I was kicked off like on a show, like with a friend. I like got an email and it was like we regret to inform you whatever. I was just like, what the fuck? And luckily, unlike you said you didn't have any of them backed up, I had been like kind of like a paranoid schizo already and
Oh, wow.
had them in hard drives wrapped in like EMP bags, like in a closet. And I was like, they're coming for me. And eventually I did get iced from there. So but real quick, could you please introduce yourself and yeah, and then we'll just
Sure.
wing it and talk about whatever.
Okay. Well, I'm Mel K from the Mel K Show, and I too started my program out of total frustration with watching what was happening in very, very, very early COVID. But I had done many shows before that. My background is I went to NYU for journalism, then for film, and I combined the two and became my career for 20 years. Still, it's back there somewhere. I became a historical screenwriter, basically a historical drama writer, taking actual history and turning it into fictionalized programming as a writer. But that really led me to a place where I've delved into, because writing obviously a period piece screenplay, especially about true events, is a tremendous amount of research. It took me almost 2 years to write a screenplay about the Eichmann trials in
Mm-hmm.
Jerusalem. The person who influenced me the most, I got a book when I was 19 years old called Origins of Totalitarianism in a class at NYU by Hannah Arendt. And this woman is the absolute most influential person in terms of writing and thinking in my life to this day. And then I had read her book, Eichmann in Jerusalem, The Banality of Evil. He was the only Nazi tried in Israel by the
Yeah.
victims. She covered that for the New Yorker magazine, turned it into a book. I turned that book into a screenplay. And but you have to dig into the period of time that it's about pretty intensely to understand, because writing a fictionalized drama of a real thing, you got to know everything, not just what happened and the
Yeah.
facts of, say, the or whatever. You need to know what was in the news at the time. How did people speak? What did they wear? What was of concern? What was the main culture environment like? Where, like, when did this happen? Especially for that screenplay, I had to really dig into 1930s Germany, and way before anything became the final solution, and see how the culture evolved. I also wrote a script like that about the exit after Vietnam, after we left Saigon and all the people we left behind. So you kind of have to read a lot about, well, how did this happen and why were we even there? Which now to me is a complete travesty. And so going forward from there, I'd written about Hemingway and Fitzgerald's relationship, which took place basically in the south of France when they were expatriates during after World War One time. So you go through and you write all these things, and you start to realize over time that a lot has changed, but so much has not changed. And the one biggest thing that I do on my show that has not changed is the money. You can trace this money situation, what I call the international banking cartel, all the way back, but basically to the French Revolution. And what I realized over time, especially writing a lot of projects about wartime, was that both sides of almost every war have been paid for by the same people. And that's when you start to really, what is going on?
Yeah.
So I had spent many, many years mapping this out, and you can only write, even writing about New York after 9/11, you can only write so many times where you realize these same people are always involved. and for 100 years. So that's how I kind of approach my show, which is I like to correct history as best I can, and also educate and inspire and empower people to rethink, actually, in a big way, internally, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, in every way, what they've been taught and what they know to be true, and ask themselves, what do they not know that they should know? And hopefully people start there. I put together a really intense resource page on the melkshow.com. It's totally free, that has a lot of receipts of my research over the years, especially what I call right now, I change names a lot, but the public-private partnership that has captured the world. They run the world like they're the parent company of planet Earth,
Mhm.
and that we're all just lucky to be here. And as the COVID kicked in, obviously, I saw so many parallels to 1930s Germany
Mhm.
happening in America. And I really wanted people to realize that this was not new. The most people don't know that the way that they started the deportations, but it was first, quarantine, was typhus, a disease, and that forced people into ghettos. And then from there on, most people also don't know that Auschwitz is a quarantine camp. So as I was watching this, I'm thinking, oh my God, how can people not see this? And a very good friend of mine, one of my best friends, is one of the only survivors of MK Ultra, Kathy O'Brien, and I've spent years with her. I go to her house and hang out, and to talk to her about what she knew. She was sold to the CIA at 3 years old and didn't get rescued out of that. She was essentially a programmed spy until she was 30. So the fact that she's still alive is one of the many reasons I believe God not only exists, but has chosen people to be their messengers. But once you put together all those pieces and you look at where we are now, it's not a surprise where we are, but we can't stop this train, because we got an election coming up, and people have to understand this is a long game. This is the end of a 100-year plan, in my opinion, to make the world a place of global governance, not of nation states. And I don't say that. The people that are facilitating the controlled demolition of America say that. So once I started the show, as you said, I was kicked off of YouTube pretty early. I also, my parents have lived in Palm Beach for 30 years. So I knew a couple of the girls from the first Epstein case in real life. So
Oh shit.
I had covered that case, known about that case, known about people that had come forward in 2007. So when that case resurfaced, I was like, oh, great, finally, or I had hoped. It's still there, it's still around, and I'm never letting it go. But talking about Epstein, or early treatment for COVID, because I
Mhm.
was I was very friendly with Dr. Zelenko and Stella Emanuel. So I was doing all that. I woke, like I told you, I got one strike. 3 days later, 2 days later, I wake up, my entire channel, 100,000 subs, probably 300 videos gone. I didn't back up because I didn't think that I wasn't thinking in terms of that they would actually do that
Yeah.
in America. But again, Google and Alphabet are not an American company. They are a globalist company, and like all of our companies here. So when people are always saying, well, God, that American companies, say Disney or Nike or whatever. No, no, no. They're not American companies. They're global companies. And these global companies are all connected, many of them through BlackRock and Vanguard. So, you try to put together the puzzle. So I've made a show on what I basically call is calling out the names of the puppet masters, because something Arendt talked about a lot, which I think is crucially important going into the next 10 months, is the idea of the cog in the wheel. And if everyone's responsible, nobody is.
Mhm.
And we constantly do these hearings of the FBI or the CIA, which rarely happens, or, we got to look into the Treasury. Da, da, da. No, we got to look at who the criminals are, specifically call them by name, and make sure people know. Because when the lawfare architects on the other side, which the other side to me is not right or left or Republican or Democrat, it is globalist and globally aligned, as opposed to American and American nation state survival aligned. And and if you look at it that way, things make a lot more sense. If people are invested in Agenda 2030 on the highest levels of our government, our banking sector, and our basically foreign policy, military industrial complex, well, that leaves America where we are right now, which is a fully captured country. That our elected politicians have essentially zero power all the way up to the president. And we have a fifth column running this nation, that does not like the people of this country in any way, shape, or form, and they don't pretend to. And now they're not even hiding it because it's endgame. Either they're going to get their great reset and they're going to end the nation state model for all nations and squash us into a top-down totalitarian track and trace surveillance world that they control, or we, the people of the United States and the rest of the world, are going to stand up and say, you have no right to take my liberty, my sovereignty, or my freedom. And that's where the Mel K show lives right now.
That's it's kind of weird hearing you talk about the fictionalized piece when I taught myself Photoshop after several years after college, and but one of the things I did before I got banned from Reddit was I made a subreddit called Funner History. I'm very, very aware that's not how you spell it.
Oh yeah.
Funner's not a word, Funner, but I liked it. And what I would do is I would just Photoshop. It just started as me because I was listening to all these books on kind of like the Eichmann trial or Operation Paperclip or and I was
Yeah.
just so what I would do is I would Photoshop something and I would try to make it as close to reality as possible, just a little to the point where people would be like they comment they'd be like what the fuck is this, and it'd be like some of them would be goofy. It'd be like a modern fighter jet in World War I or something, or like a tank in the Civil War. But some of them I would try to
Right.
get as close as possible using like real dates, real times, real like the names of programs like MK Ultra or Monarch, or talking about like the Mossad going to South America and doing all this. And I would just kind of just smudge the truth. And I would always know I did it correctly when someone would be like, "This is bullshit," and someone would be like, "Look at the name of the sub," and they'd be like, "Oh shit," and be like, "All right, now you have to subscribe." But then ironically enough, doing that ended up getting banned from Reddit. But that was kind of most of the stuff I talk about on the show. Really, kind of a cursory examination of about the time Federal Reserve was created until around now was based on just years of listening to audiobooks out of pure curiosity, just
Yeah.
about like the space program or about the crazy shit DARPA was doing, and finding the little sentences and fragments that you'd piece together, like the Eisenhower military industrial complex speech we all know of. But 30 years prior, you have Smedley Butler saying almost the same
Right.
thing. And then,
Exactly.
but then you go back even further, you go Woodrow Wilson, League of Nations, and he has a quote talking about how even the most powerful men in industry talk about a machine so efficient and so organized that they dare
Right.
not speak above a whisper. And then you're like, what the fuck? And then you go back to, there's a quote about like, I fear that through constant warring, all capital will be consolidated into a few like almost god-esque companies. And then that
Yeah.
quote's Abe Lincoln, and you're like, what the fuck's going on? And like you kind of you start to see at the highest levels, these guys have like one or two sentence fragments, and then it's like snuffed out. It's like a candle that went out, and you're like, hold on, what was that though? It's like you saw, it's like a
Yeah.
scary movie where you see like a flash in like the top right hand corner. You're like, wait, what was that? You can kind of
Yeah.
just see these little things throughout history, and they're very quietly just put like, don't worry about that. And it's one thing if
Yeah.
it's like the crazy homeless guy, like you know, taking his dick out and talking about shit. You're like, that guy's on crack. But when it's like 5-star General, Supreme Allied Commander Eisenhower, or the most decorated Marine of all time, Smedley Butler, and you hear them talking about it, you're like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's I guess what's brought me to like the point I am on the podcast is like I can't not talk about this shit because there are receipts. Like there
Yeah.
there
A
are
lot.
yeah. So yeah, that is kind of which the point that labeled the episode is what you said in one of your shows, Great Awakening versus Great Reset. I'm torn between one thing that it has brought me to is believing in God again. It's completely. I got to interview an Apollo 16 astronaut, and he
Wow.
actually ended up kind of convincing me to give God a chance again. And I've gone into that story a million times. But the point is to end my rambling is I look at what's happening, and it's hard to tell why it's all speeding up right now. Is it out of desperation, or is it that they're the analogy I use, and I don't know shit about sports, so it's kind of ironic for me to do it, but it's like they're either up by 10 touchdowns with a minute left, so they're putting in the fifth string quarterback, and they're like, yeah, let them have a chance, or it's like it's a tie game with 2 seconds left. So they're doing the crazy Hail Mary trick play. Either way, you're like, why are they doing this?
Right.
What do you think it is? Is it they're so close to winning, or is it like they're fucked and they're kind of mag dumping right now?
Well, I think it's both. Like I say on my shows a lot, I think they're as close as they've ever been to the global governance model working, and they're as far as they've ever been. And the real reason
Mm,
they're as far as they've ever been is because their disinformation, misinformation, fact-checking fraud that has tried to silence anyone that they couldn't just kick off and surrender failed. And there are too many people, millions of people around the world do what we do, and they couldn't stop it. And the word got out, and people knew something was very wrong. It's sad because I feel like the American people are so deceived. We've been in my opinion, a very well orchestrated color revolution by the people that, are the color revolution experts around the world within our own
mm-hmm,
government and our own NGOs and think tanks that are running the controlled demolition of America because they have signed in. They're all in. Agenda 2030 and 21 before that is the game that they are playing with our country. And Barack Obama signed onto it in 2015. Most American citizens had no idea. They believed this lie of kumbaya, of globalism. That is the fraud that is the United Nations. And again, we have to reframe everything that we know. The United Nations never was a benevolent organization to end wars. In fact, so many more wars have happened for so many less important reasons than we've been told since they existed. Their partnership with the World Economic Forum has been going on since Kofi Annan. People don't know that, which is a public-private partnership that rests above the countries that they have captured. And and that's not it. The truth is that it goes all the way up to the Bank of International Settlements, the IMF, global loan scheme that goes into nations. It gives them loans they cannot pay
mm-hmm,
back, then sees the country and the resources and the people and everything else and turns it into a debt slavery model society. So, you brought up Wilson. A lot of the worst things in our country happened under Wilson, who I believe was working with the crown. I believe Kissinger was always working with the crown as well. And, for me, I go back to 1776 and I say, did we really win the American Revolution, or did they let us think that we won? And they went back to England and they regrouped and they infiltrated us through the banking and the corporations and the institutions. Like you brought up Operation Paperclip, one infiltration of many, Frankfurt School,
mm-hmm.
infiltration of many. And really, you also go back to when the Rockefellers captured because they've been like aristocrats or supra, like Tragedy and Hope will describe, with Rockefeller at the very top in our nation, I believe also aligned with the crown. So you kind of have to wonder. And what I say to people, at least that watch me, is just, take 20 minutes and go grab the Declaration of Independence, read through it, and think about the 27 grievances, and ask yourself where we are right now. Are we in the exact same place? And I would say, yes, we are. It's just this time the tyranny, the totalitarian takedown, the technocracy model that they are pushing for under the guise of the fraudulent Agenda 2030 and 17 development goals to our own digital track and trace surveillance slave system is guised with things that are not solvable, but that people get propagandized by, say, the climate emergency or the World Health Organization pandemic panics or the financial, manipulation. I firmly believe that 2008 was a controlled demolition to start consolidating banks towards the central bank digital currency. So what we are dealing with now is they are in their end game. They've executed as far as they could. Donald Trump threw a huge wrench in it and inspired movements all over the world, similar to Trump's movement with, Bolsonaro, Khan, the guys in Hungary, Orban. So there's movements all over the world of leaders saying, I'm not going to play your game anymore. Your chessboard, your Brzezinski, Kissinger, Rockefeller crown chessboard no longer is going to be honored in my nation. And we saw what happened to anyone who tried to get out of the central bank, international central bank cartel system like Libya. Gaddafi, what we did to Libya is to me, and I know that there's far more deaths and way worse war crimes, in my opinion. But what we did in Libya is a total straight up war crime
Hmm.
and the worst of America. And it still is has never recovered. Gaddafi was not an enemy of ours. There was no reason to do that. I believe that was because he wanted out of the central banking globalist system, as did most people don't know, Saddam Hussein. So we really just have to be very vigilant right now. I know Donald Trump says a lot of times they're not after me, they're after you, and I'm in the way. And I believe that in a lot of ways for many reasons. But I also think it's even bigger, and American citizens have to realize the pivotal point we are in on the planet first, which is they're not after America, they're after the world, and America is in the way. And I find that to be very empowering if you are an American citizen and understand that what our founding fathers handed us with the DNA built into our nation of standing up against bullies, which is essentially what we did in their times, and also empowering ourselves to empower others. And the whole concept of the American dream should be alive on everywhere on planet Earth. That is God's, say so, in my opinion, over everyone's lives. You are born into this world, and you do with it what you will, and you auto determine that based on what your mission, your purpose, your drive is. And every person born onto this planet should have that opportunity to decide, for themselves. And we are in a situation where, we, the people of the United States, have to start to realize on a very deep level that we are the answer. And the American citizen, individual citizen, standing up for their own liberty and their own freedom, in a massive scale, without fear, without, scared of this totally weaponized government, this captured government, is the answer. And I think that that's spreading throughout the country. The American people were very much, I feel, kneecapped in standing up for ourselves purposefully on the Fedsurrection Day of January 6th. And we still have people that are very leery of doing what they need to do, which is standing up in the face of tyranny, as Jefferson said, and as we are entitled to do, which is address the grievances of a corrupt government. So right now, everyone's got to make their choice. And I know that these people are super desperate to keep America silent and complicit in this one world final play, a great reset, if you want to call it. But frankly, I think that they've made so many mistakes out of desperation. I think they went into true panic mode the day Donald Trump won. I do not think until that night that the globalists that run our nation, the billionaire oligarchs that run all the NGOs and fund the think tanks and fund the military industrial complex, and obviously BlackRock, and we have to address that on the other side of regaining our footing and freedom, is more loyal to that, and therefore, our country is these billionaire oligarchs that are the American wing of the great resetters of the Davos crew. They've already signed on. Their fortunes, their futures, their families, their everything is all invested in this post-America world. And we, the people of the United States, are the answer to make that not a possibility. And that's where we are. I just wish more Americans understood that, there's a hill to die on, and that hill is freedom.
It does kind of seem like almost like a trust fund kid, like of like the 100-year plan, where it's like,
Yeah.
and they're evil, but you have to respect your enemy. It's almost like you have like the Carnegie or the or like the Rockefeller, or you have like just some hardcore, you know, grew up like child labor, and they conquer everything, and they into the Gilded Age, and they're worth like 300 billion. And
Yeah.
then they the offspring kind of controls it, maybe increases the wealth by a little bit, but then you get 6 generations down, and it's just some coked up college kid smashing a Lamborghini into like a, I don't know, a school bus or something, and you're like, that's a Carnegie, or like that's a Rockefeller. It kind of seems like they did very well for several decades, but we're at like the kids to where it's this total fuck up of, yeah, banning everyone that talks about anything, to full on funding, weeks into the the war in Ukraine. You had people be like, this kind of just seems like horse shit. And normally it took like a decade, and it's speeding
True.
upwards faster and faster and faster to like, wait, we're funding Nazis now, and why are we doing this, and why are we doing that? It does seem like they're fumbling it, and you know dad passed away at 95, and he was still pulling the strings behind the corporation, and now you have like the son, and it's they're at the board of directors meeting and they're just trying to liquidate it so they can go live on like an island, and it's like, oh wait, this is the final gasp of some, like, corporate, like the arms of Krupp, Krupp, like that was a 400-year corporation that fizzled out with like Nazi Germany. It kind of seems like they're fumbling it, which is both good and bad. On one hand,
Yeah, I don't yeah, I think that they I call it the Poison Ivy League, but I think
yeah,
that
the Poison Ivy League.
they groomed people to fill in for them. I do agree with you in one sense that they while they were dumbing down our kids, they dumbed down their own. And there's a sense of this whole consumerism, materialism, what you have, this external Kardashian type of lifestyle that they've concocted through, reality TV and social media and all of that has made their own ilk, their own generations, very arrogant and very entitled on a massive scale, but not wanting to work. We don't have strategists like is Kissinger and Brzezinski that can pull off these giant plans, and there's no silence. There's actually a quote by, I believe, one of the worst, like you brought up Carnegie and some of these, it's still their foundations of
Mm-hmm.
those families that are running a lot of
Oh
stuff,
yeah.
at least funding it on the back end. So they did groom people in, especially through, we know about the young global leaders, but there are also the Wexner fellows at
Mm-hmm.
Harvard and all of the different fellowships and the Rhodes Scholars and all these different things. So they plucked people up and pulled them in. But again, their children are failing as well. I mean, the education system, what has happened to it since the takeover from, we don't want entrepreneurs and creatives and all that. We just want workers that don't question and comply. Basically, the Rockefeller Dewey model from that actually came from the Frankfurt School in Germany. Really destroyed, I think, two generations of our children, and that's a big hurdle to get over right now because we do need to rebuild America from the inside. Most people don't realize because of the extensive and destructive and disgusting propaganda since Obama flipped the Smith-Mundt Act upside down.
Mm-hmm.
We have so many people that are so deeply propagandized, and they're emotionally, because these people are geniuses that are running this long-term color revolution in America. They're going for emotion. And
Mm-hmm.
if people are thinking with emotion, they can't think with critical thinking. And it's been a brilliant exercise. The bad part is for them is that the pandemic, they overplayed their hand dramatically and people started kicking into critical thinking. One thing they didn't think about when they locked down the world was that, and I learned this from Kathy, for what happened after she was rescued out of the MK Ultra and had to rebuild her mind, was that popping somebody out of their patterns tends to jolt people to a place where they do start to kind of think differently. So
Mm-hmm.
while everyone was going along, I firmly believe it was a pandemic for multiple reasons, including ending the Donald Trump. And again, I want people to understand the persecution of Donald Trump has nothing to do, in my mind, with Donald Trump. It has to
No.
do with us. It has to
Yeah.
do with the Trump voting bloc, the 80 million people that are getting in the way and that still believe in America as a great nation and believe our borders, language, and culture need to be respected, believe that the military should be working for we the people, not foreign governments or corporations or banks. And at the same time, we really have to, I believe, realize that the end game is it could be the beginning for actual power to the people and governance by the people for the people because it was usurped so long ago. But so much is has been brought out because of the pandemic. And I say to people all the time because people say, "Oh, why do you do this?" or whatever. And I spent 20 years in Hollywood and all other been in Manhattan and all over. And I will tell you, the people that are opposed to all that I believe matters, which is liberty, freedom, and autodetermination of individuals to live the life that they choose without interference by any government, um, is that they they want us to believe it's the Bezmenov game that they've played, the demoralization, dehumanization, crisis, normalization. It's over and over and over. And at this point, everyone is equally suffering in one way or another in America. And most people, I would say probably 80% of the American people don't know what is wrong, but they know something's terribly wrong in this country. And again, that is why shows like yours and mine and others are required, because popping people out of the propaganda model that has been so deeply manipulated, especially, Barack Obama has a very close relationship with the best of the best and most creative, talented people in Hollywood and the media, and they have no remorse, no shame for what they're doing to our country, our people, our children, in terms of propaganda and mind control and manipulation, and making everyone this learned helplessness. This, you the people, you can't do anything. It's all inevitable. Everything's inevitable. There's been movies for decades to kind of push us towards it's inevitable, and then when it happens, we just accept it because we already believed somehow, some way that things are inevitable. And right now, nothing is inevitable. And I know that they will do a lot upcoming year. But and the other side's rough. I just did a roundtable with a woman who has never been kicked off of YouTube because she's on the left. 500,000 subs there. Went on Rumble somehow overnight. It's 250,000 subs. She honestly talks about the border like it's 1972, and that the border is not an operation to destroy this country and many other countries in the world to have no national unity, because having no national unity, no pride in citizenship means that we will never stand up and take back this country. That's a lot of what. Sure, it has a lot to do with the election and voting. It has more to do with, I guess it would be diluting the American spirit, American history, American culture, American society, and the idea of united we stand, divided we fall. Well, they know divided we fall is a fact, and that has a lot to do with it too. So, much is going on, but there's a lot of opportunity. And I say to people, I don't care if you were a drunk, if you were a gambler, if you were some kind of horrible womanizer. I don't care what you did before this time. You can redefine who you are right now, and with your purpose and your mission, and you can go inside and be a hero and a leader where you are, because this is going to be a grassroots, local, state, and then all the way to the national. But I'd like to put, and I believe Donald Trump does too, DC out of business, and put it back to what it was supposed to be when it was established, which was a backstop for what is happening to our nation within, and that's it. I don't think that they should be regulating anything. I firmly believe that almost every single agency is unconstitutional, and the Patriot Act is the worst thing that ever happened to this nation since the Federal Reserve. And we, the people of the United States, need to really understand it doesn't matter who the president is if we're not fighting on our front guard in our communities to make sure that the people regain the power, and that this actually is a government that is by the people, for the people, that we consent to what they do, not that they tell us what we're going to do and how we're going to live. And, I feel good that I think there's enough people that get this, but certainly anyone that's still watching MSNBC, which is a fully fit fourth, arm of the government, and CNN even bad, but see, MSNBC is staffed with a lot of intel people, a lot of deep state, real deep state people. NBC itself, Comcast, is all in for the global governance models. So, we have to be super brave, stand up, speak up, show up, and not, stop playing along. Like anyone that's still saying, well, I'm not going to talk about that with anyone. Well, guess what? Then you're a problem in my mind. Right now, if you think, I had done a show with an elderly gentleman who has a senior softball league, and he's like, yeah, we're just not allowed to talk about politics. And I said to him, have you known that the Obama regime and the fifth, I call them the fifth column, want it only to be about politics? Everyone's exhausted, and they say we're just, what they want right now is us to give up on Trump. They've gone, his 91 indictments. He isn't guilty of anything, first of all, that requires any of that. But the whole war on Trump, the persecution of Trump, is really about us, and it is about wearing us down to the point that we say we give up.
Mhm.
Fine, take America, just leave us alone. It's got to be no. We don't give up. We're taking America. Leave us alone.
Yeah, it's the book. I don't know if you've read it. K.L. by Nicholas Voshman. About it's like a 40-hour audiobook. And I remember, I think I originally read it because I guess I'm an egotistical asshole. I want to be able to say I read a 40-hour book, but it's the entire setup of the concentration camps from like 33 forward. And I always
Yeah.
say this, like, I didn't know until I read that that, I mean, the early reports of Auschwitz is the guards would hang out with the prisoners during the day. They'd be drinking gin and like they'd be playing cards and shit. And the original
Not
stays
with the
were
prisoners. They'd be watching them from
no,
there's many pictures that I've gotten from like they'd be watching them from like wooden tables, like picnic tables outside, watching it all, playing cards and drinking. There's actual photographs of
but
that.
what I mean is
Yeah.
like early on, like the stays would be 24 hours, 48, and then you
Yeah.
just leave, and they would talk about like, yeah, I know, I went and over time, it over the months and like the first year got a little worse to where your stay would be a week and you'd maybe not talk about it, you'd have a black eye or something, and it's slowly just people like I just kind of don't want to, I don't want anything to do with this, I'm just going about my life. But when you have that mindset, it does the temperature just keeps slowly turning up to where, I mean, it's like being on the Titanic and you're like, I don't want to know. Well, we didn't hit anything. And it's like you can be in either the lowest class, like horse shit room, or you can be in the, with the asters in your own presidential suite. No matter what, in all the rooms, you start to realize that we're leaning a little bit. And it doesn't matter how rich you are. No, it's unsinkable. You can keep telling yourself that, man. But there is a point where it's like, hey, we got to get up. We got to get on a fucking lifeboat. I don't want to be a buzzkill, guys. Like I know we're sitting here with
Yeah.
the masters of the universe. This thing's fucking leaning. Bye. And
Yeah.
it's
That's where we are. Yeah.
there's almost, you almost don't want to acknowledge it because it makes it real, right? I mean, I'm 33. Like I have no fun doing this. I hate talking about this shit. But it's, you start looking at it and you go, I can't deny that it's something is speeding up, and
Yeah.
it's going faster, and it's like a weird hum, and it's just sort of that sixth sense, like your hair standing up, and you're like, I don't want to do this, man. I don't fucking like talking about this shit, and making the parallels to Nazi Germany. It's not fun, but it doesn't make it any less real, right?
Yeah.
And so that's I guess that's kind of where I come down on it is I don't want it to be real more than any other person, but it doesn't make it any less real. And
Yeah.
you can stick your head in the sand. It's comfortable for a bit. I mean, maybe if you're like 99 right now in 2024, yeah, maybe you're like, yeah, fuck it. What do I care? The most of us, man, we're gonna be alive for whatever it is that's coming, and there is going to be no such thing as I don't want it. Leave me alone. There's no
Right.
leaving alone.
No, no.
No, everything and everyone is under its complete control, which might be their downfall. That they've pulled
Yeah.
in too many people. That
Yeah.
they've the Smith Mund Act. Yeah, it they should have kept keep it tight, keep it quiet. Silence anyone who talks about the Patriot Act, but nothing else. It got way too out of hand. I got banned from Twitter for making a joke about trannies. Like, dude, you're making way too many people into like digital combatants that
Yeah.
legitimately
Well,
want
that's
it.
part of it.
Yeah,
That's on purpose, though.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you ever saw it's disturbing. It's on the Mel K show resource page. I have a section called opposition playbooks, which is I get and I download before they disappear. Right now, I hope people understand that Google is completely scraped of anything that is counter to the narrative. They're a partner of the World Economic Forum and the UN and the globalist, Ministry of Truth that actually is functioning. And many NGOs in our country are involved in it, including Atlantic Council. Facebook is obviously all in, but Schumer had a meeting recently with all the heads of AI. Eric Schmidt, equally nefarious to Bill Gates, in my opinion,
Hmm.
that doesn't get enough attention. One of the billionaire control oligarchs of America is running a lot of that on the back end. He, of course, is one of the creators of the social credit and track and trace surveillance in China, CCP. So where I agree with you in so many ways, it's to me also very obvious that they will not go down without a fight.
Yeah.
So even if, and they are losing a lot, they wouldn't need fraudulent fact checking organizations or trusted news. But what Google, and now, honestly, if you look for things on DuckDuckGo, they're gone. Thank God I downloaded so much from the beginning and from my old work too, that I have a lot of documents, but I saw even somebody told me the Wayback Machine is purging stuff, and I use that a lot, or I used to. So, it's the erasing of history right out of 1984 that is, I think, also very detrimental, which is why shows like yours and other shows, regardless of whether we, want to spend every day doing this or not, are crucial because for me, it's very hard. You talked about the KL book. I know that book. The one that I think is the most eye-opening because it is by an insider is Tragedy and Hope. And I feel like it's very hard to read, but there are a lot of books about it that are not that hard to read. And, that was Carol Quigley, who Bill Clinton said was like his idol and mentor at Georgetown. So you have to understand that they um, they don't look at us as people. There's a fifth column right now running our country, as far as I'm concerned, at least through the weaponization of the government, through the main justice, as some people call it, the FBI and all the intel agencies, everything that was put in place because of the Patriot Act, the DNI, the DHS. We didn't have all this stuff. This didn't exist. And the people that put it in place were already, post George H.W., they already knew the end goal. The end goal was track and trace surveillance and shutting down dissent and totalitarianism through technocracy and technology. And we can opt out of it, but people have to start opting out of it. When I still hear people, it's almost as bad as when I see people not realize that Facebook, Google, Instagram, I still believe Twitter, they're all watching you. You are not, they have AI that is watching you. I believe there's dossiers on every single one of us, certainly on me and you. And that we are in a situation where the American individual needs to really, first of all, read the Constitution, Bill of Rights, understand what your powers are in terms of law and government, especially read your state constitution, which most people don't even know they have a state constitution, which is surprising. But at that point, you have to do everything you can in your power to wake up those around you. And I always say, be the Paul Revere in your local community and your sphere of influence, because as long as people are, putting their handprints on at Amazon stores or at Whole Foods and thinking it's the coolest thing in the world, or getting their retina scanned to get on a plane faster, they don't understand what they're doing. They are walking eyes wide open into a digital gulag that they will never get out of. And that's where we have to draw the line and say, you know what, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to pretend things aren't wrong. I'm going to say my truth, and you're going to deal with my truth or you're not. But, I'm not going to be one of the people playing along with the game. And that's why I have the Mel K show. That's obviously why you have your show, is because we're not willing to be intimidated by the idea that we can't say the truth because the truth ruins the plan. And I think that that's great. And that's why I do what I do. And I think why you do what you do. And every day I just pray to God to make me useful. My whole first year, I believed a lot of things and heard a lot of things. People telling me they had intel. And one day I sat down with somebody who actually does know what's going on and snapped me out of it. And I said, you know what, from here going forward, if I can't prove it, I won't say it. And but what I can prove is so bad that I'm just going to focus on that, because the truth needs no explanation. It is what it is. And that's where we are.
Yeah, and then there's also just, and I don't mean it in like a pessimistic or negative way. I always just look at it as like we will die. Like it does end. So I don't know. Really, the only thing you have is that peace in the final moments. Like at the end of the day, like if I know I did the right thing or help someone, I always fall asleep easier. It doesn't matter if you're exhausted.
Yeah, me too.
You're just like, whatever, man. I know I did the right thing. That's kind of what I'm gunning for. Is just that peace at the very end, and it, that's really all that matters. And it's,
Yeah.
I don't know. And then there's also just, I don't know, maybe the arrogant, I guess, masculinity in me that they also just look like such fucking losers. You
Well,
know?
yeah, and there's a righteous indignation because
Yeah.
the thing I hate most my whole life are bullies. And right now we
Yeah.
are being bullied into giving America away to a globalist billionaire oligarchy run public-private partnership that X is the parent company of planet Earth. And they need us more than we need them. And that's my message, is kind of what you're saying to everyone, which is, you know what? If you don't comply, they can't succeed. And that's an individual choice. every
Yeah.
single day. Everyone has to make. Are they going towards freedom and liberty? Or are they going towards slavery and control? And that's why I do the show. And I
Yeah.
wanted to thank you so much for having
Yeah,
me
of
here. I got to
course.
run,
No,
but we
absolutely.
got to
Yeah.
do it again.
I
And
would
I
love
want your
to.
audience to know that everything we're talking about, there's plenty of receipts on the melkshow.com web page. You go to resources, and I have all the WikiLeaks. I have tons of CIA and FBI D class. I have everything on Agenda 2030 on what happened in our schools. I put a lot of work into that, and it's totally free. And also everyone should know there's another round of censorship coming. So make sure you're subscribed to both of our newsletters, have our web pages tagged. And if anyone would like to, I'd love to have more people join me. I have a show every night at 7 p.m. on or 7:30, depending on how long it takes me to jump on. And that is on Rumble and everywhere free speeches. And even though we both got kicked off of Twitter, you got to be in the battlefield. So I'm there at Mel K Show and on Instagram as long as that lasts at the Mel K Show. So I really appreciate you having me, and
Of
hopefully you'll
course.
come on my show and we'll
I would love
continue
to.
this. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. Yeah, guys, please go in the description. I have the links to all of your stuff in there. And yeah,
Thank you.
go read any book on the CIA and realize that if even 10% of it's true, it's absolutely fucked. So that's, I don't know, that's kind of my logic. So thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
coming on. I'd love to
See you
come on your
next
show.
time. Thanks
Yeah.
a lot.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for watching. Much love, everybody.
Recording
God
stopped.
bless. Peace.